Good evening, everyone. This is a live look where Richland County Sheriff Leon Lott is preparing to announce new developments in the Meadowlake Park shooting that happened over the weekend, that being on the north side of Columbia. 11 people were hurt in that shooting, all between the ages of 16 and 20 years old. Let's listen to the sheriff.
We would make some progress and make some arrests in the mass shooting that we had this past weekend at Meadowlake Park. I'm here standing to tell you that we've made that progress. We've arrested 2 juveniles today that we were believed involved in the shooting. They're not all the shooters, but they're 2. We have 2 brothers. They're both 16. They'll be 17 in 5 days. So they're charged as juveniles at this point, so I can't give out their names. We're going to ask the solicitor's office if they would waive them up and have them tried as an adult. They were involved in another shooting, unrelated to what happened at Meadowlakes, that we were investigating. Kentucky Fried Chicken up in the Broad River Road area was a shooting there. Our investigators worked that. We determined these 2 brothers were involved in that shooting. We did a search warrant this morning where we arrested them on those charges, but we recovered some weapons. We recovered an assault rifle and some pistols. Our ballistics people were able to determine that the shell casings that we found at the shooting this weekend matches at least one of the guns that we recovered. It also matches some other shootings too. They've got 2 other shootings, I think, in the county and a couple of shootings in the city. But we've made those arrests. We'll continue to investigate. There'll be additional charges. They've locked up now. I think it's for 2 counts of attempted murder. Our investigators will probably put additional charges on them tomorrow. Today was a good day. We were in court earlier, and another individual that was at the Meadowlakes incident, his bond was revoked. He should have never been let out in the first place. He was already out on 2 previous bonds with weapons, and a circuit court judge heard the evidence today and decided to revoke his bond. So Kelly has been put back in jail where he needs to be. It's just tragic that we've got so many young people running around here with guns. And what happened there is typical when young people get their hands on guns and they shoot. We've had a lot of information come into us. I want to thank the community. I want to thank young people. There's been a lot of young people who said that they're sick of this. They don't want this to continue to happen in our community. And we've been receiving a good bit of information. And we're going to continue to follow up on all that information. But I thought it was important enough that our community know that we've made 2 arrests, that those people that are responsible for this are going to be held accountable. Unfortunately, sometimes when we have shootings in other areas, nobody gets arrested for it. That's not going to happen here in Richland County. We're going to work tirelessly, and we're going to put those in jail that deserve to be in jail. But 2 tonight so far has been charged. We expect additional arrests as we continue to investigate it. Questions?
What led to their arrest? With social media, how do we find these people?
Well, we were investigating them on something else. There was another shooting that they were involved in, and we were able to determine they were involved in that. So when we made the arrest this morning, we had no clue that they were involved in the Meadowlake shooting until our ballistics matched up some evidence at the Meadowlake shooting to here. And that led us to those charges and some more information that we were able to develop after that. So this morning they wasn't on our radar for that shooting at Meadowlakes. They were on our radar for some other shootings, and that's what they got caught for. Now we've been able to put them at the shooting this past weekend too with guns.
Where are they currently being held at?
Alvin Escalade Detention Center in the juvenile wing. They are juveniles. They're 16. So at this point they'll be treated as a juvenile, but again, we're going to ask the solicitor to look at the crimes they've been involved in, the violence, the guns. I think at least one gun they had that we recovered from them was a stolen gun. They just, I don't know what proper word you want to use, but they were just on a terror spree out here with guns and shooting. And fortunately, we got them off the street right now. They're not back in our community with these guns.
And has it been determined just how many people were involved in that shooting yet?
No, we don't know yet. We're still looking at various surveillance photographs and videos, and And stuff people are sending us. Again, we've got young people who are sending us stuff, which is good. And, I applaud them. I'm standing here talking about bad kids. There's so many more good kids. There were so many kids that were out there Saturday morning that are not bad. They didn't have a gun, didn't have a mask on, didn't do any shooting. Those kids we tend to forget, but I think that's very important. The majority of our young people are good. We just had a couple out there that are out there just doing crazy things. And, I call them Sunday cowards, and that's what they are. Absolute cowards to be taking a gun like they did and just shooting it in a crowd of people.
You mentioned earlier that there could be a possibility of semi-automatic weapons. What type of weapons were recovered from these two individuals?
Assault rifle and some pistols. And when you look at automatic weapons, you can't think it's just a rifle. There's a switch, a Glock switch that goes on a Glock gun that allows you to pull the trigger and the gun will shoot till the magazine's empty. That's an automatic weapon. And so it doesn't have to be a rifle to be considered an automatic weapon. And that's what we're seeing a lot of that these young people are getting. And when you pull that trigger and that gun starts shooting, those bullets go all over the place. And then when they have an extended magazine in it, then they have even more bullets than what you normally would have.
And we found out today that Fulwiley and Kelly were both wearing black ski masks when they were pulled over. Were there any other suspects or anybody else that was involved in that shooting that were seen wearing ski masks or anything
Yeah,
like that?
there were other people wearing ski masks there, not just Fulwiley and Kelly. There were additional people that had masks on. And I'll say the same thing that I got asked earlier. Who goes to a party wearing a mask, concealing your identity and carrying a gun? Not many people I know, unless you're there to do something that is what happened the other day, and that's shoot into a crowd of people. So that's not normal. That's not normal.
And I'm sure that, these suspects wearing those masks is making it a little bit more difficult to be able to identify them and find out who they were.
Difficult, but not impossible. Not impossible at all. There's no such thing as the perfect crime. And you can wear a mask, we're still going to find out who you are. And that's what I said on Sunday, and I'm standing here today saying so far we've got at least 2 that we know were involved in the shooting. So we're continuing to work. There's going to be more arrests. This is not the only ones that are going to be arrested.
Do you know if these two individuals are gang-related? And also you mentioned you were doing research into a KFC shooting. Once you arrested them, did you find out they had even more charges behind them? Have they been in prison before?
They're juveniles, so I'm not going to talk about the juvenile records. I'm, prohibited from saying a whole lot. I will tell you they're 2 brothers. They're brothers. And, they've been a 2-person brother crime wave out here, but that was put to a stop today. So, again, the community just needs to know that we're making progress and that we're not going to stop, we're not going to slow down. We're going to continue to investigate, and we're going to continue to hold everybody accountable that was out there that was shooting in this crowd. They need to be. The victims, we've contacted the victims before I stood up here today. We want to let the victims know that want them to hear from the media. So we've contacted the victims, the ones we can get in touch with, and let them know that we've made progress and there's been some arrests. That helps. That's part of the healing process, is the fact that they know someone's going to be held accountable for the injuries they received.
And how are those victims doing? I know that several of them were in the hospital.
Still in the hospital. They're still. Again, we talked about it's not just those that are in the hospital. Everybody who was there has suffered some type of injury, and that could be a mental injury just as well as a physical injury. It scared people, even people who are not there, even young people who were not there. It scared them. You want to be able to go somewhere and hang out with your friends and not worry about getting shot in the back. And, so it scares our young people. So, we want to let our young people know we hear you, we're supporting you, thank you for the information you're giving us. Don't give up. Don't let these terrorists make you live in fear. That's one of the things that a terrorist will like to do. If they can have you living in fear, then they're winning. Don't live in fear. So, all right, thank y'all.
Sure.
Go ahead.
You say these 2 young men are juveniles?
Correct, 16.
I imagine they should be attending an area high school. Are you allowed to tell me what high school they attend?
They're not in school. They're not in school. And just the other 2 that we arrested earlier, and these 2, these are not high school students who are going to school. These are hoodlums, criminals, whatever you want to call them. They're not your typical high school student who, goes somewhere with a gun and shoots people. That's not your typical high school student. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Richland County Sheriff Leon Lott wrapping up a press conference. 2 arrests made in the mass shooting over the weekend at Meadowlake Park in Richland County. 2 brothers, 16 years old. The sheriff describing how they showed up at that park wearing masks, firing shots into the crowd, calling them cowards and even calling them terrorists, saying that they're behind bars because they inflicted what he called carnage, essentially, in the community. A situation where several were injured. These teens are now behind bars where they are charged with 2 counts of attempted murder. And he said that essentially it comes down to the community stepping forward, and he thanked young people in particular, saying that it was those tips that ultimately led them to figure out who was behind that shooting.
11 people had been hurt in that shooting over the weekend, 9 of whom had actually been shot. The other 2 were hurt in other ways. So Sheriff Lott tonight saying that that 2-person brother crime wave, as he called it, has come to an end. The thing is, though, Greg, the sheriff pointed out, these may not be the only 2 who are going to be arrested for this, but he said they have been on a crime spree, a shooting, a terror spree, he called it. And because of being connected with other shootings, other crimes, one being at the KFC, the Kentucky Fried Chicken, they are going to seek that the solicitor move them up and be charged as adults, even though they're 16 years old, because of the crime spree they have been on.
Yeah, he said neither of the teens are attending school currently, but said that they are linked to other shootings in the area. You mentioned the one at KFC,
Right.
and then others, but that they were able to connect some of the bullets,
Shell casings.
the shell casings, with the weapons that were recovered when they eventually caught these 2 young men who are not yet identified because they are juveniles. Of course, we'll have complete coverage on these 2 arrests that were made in that mass shooting over the weekend.